Hello everybody, it is Glass Half Dead here wearing his own merch that you can't even see because the camera is pointed too high. We have just had a delightful little FAQ and errata, but have we? Because you may recall, well, so if you go to the page, you will see that it all looks a little bit different. We used to have the faction name, let's say Corsair Voidsguard, and then below that you would have FAQ, and below that you would have errata, and you could click on both. Now, every single faction, compendium, and core has been updated all on the same day. Normally, they would only show that something's been updated when they've actually updated it. However, they've done something different, and they have actually rolled the FAQs and erratas into one, which means that they all are showing as having been updated today. But that isn't what's actually happened. They've just been put into the same document. So I've gone through all of them, and I have gone ahead and listed out just the rules differences. What are they? Well, they rolled them together. But that's about it. They haven't done much. There's not much. This is not a big change, okay? In the last one, honestly, quite a lot got changed. This one, just, cleaning up of the rules sort of thing. Now, we were expecting a balanced data slate today, which obviously would be a huge change. We're all expecting a lot of buffs to some things, nerfs to some things. I think it's going to be a huge balanced data slate. But the errata, teeny tiny. Okay. However, whilst looking through these, I saw that it kind of got a lot of people in Discords, WhatsApp groups, etc. just kind of poking around and looking at changes that they hadn't realized. And like reading them and saying, oh my god, that's huge. It's like, yes, it's been that way for like months now. So, hence the last bullet point here, should probably look at all of these changes again at some point, right? Like, yeah, because there are some interesting changes that do change the game, not on a fundamental level, but when you really get into the nitty-gritty of it. Now, let's get into it. Although, of course, if you are a subscriber to my channel, I'd like to give you a big double hello. Wow, isn't that such a nice thing to get on this beautiful day? Yes, of course it is. A double hello is to subscribers. Just to remind you to subscribe, like, leave a comment. And you know that I do a bunch of other things. I've got merch, I've got a Discord, I've got a Patreon where if you'd like to support me, that'd be awesome. That also has access to my Vantage Point podcast where I just did an amazing interview with Ace, the #1 Spanish player, about terrain and layouts at Warhammer World. Originally did that on Twitch, now it's gone to Patreon only. I also have another channel called Full Scale Wargaming. Also, I've kind of decided, I've added an extra tier to my Patreon. I want to throw that out there. This pains me to say, but going to big tournaments like LVO, KTO, Nova, etc. costs a lot of money. So I've added another tier to my Patreon where if you want to genuinely help me get to those big tournaments, there is now a tier for that, which is going to be a little bit more of a don't just sign up to it, probably talk to me first, etc. sort of thing. So that now exists because I would love to go to LVO and KTO, etc. etc. That now exists. However, before we get into things, I do have another question for you. So maybe you are aware, but I have done a bunch of rules videos. I've got two big ones come to mind. One is 19 rules beginner mistakes, right? And then I did a follow-up called 6 in-depth rules explanations. So a total of 25 rules explanations there, running from really quite small to actually, like the explanation itself being really quite in-depth. And that's great, but it's a half-hour video, and not everybody wants that. A lot of people will be playing a game and they will say, how does line of sight work? They will say, how do I build a fire team? How do I actually traverse terrain? How do I actually, climb or drop, etc., etc., right? How does blast work? How does torrent work compared to blast, etc.? You can see here, these are the lists of questions that I intend to make explanations for and put them into a short. So, do you have any others? Please drop a comment and let me know, and I would love to go ahead and if I think it's something that would benefit people, make a shorts video explaining exactly how that works. Not because, to be clear, I get like no ad revenue from shorts. This is just so that people can easily find rules answers. It's not going to replace any of my normal content. I think it will just genuinely help people. All right, so please drop a comment, let me know. Okay, let's get into things. So again, not many changes. Core changes first. This is a narrative change in Shadow Vaults right here, in fact. This sprue right here. Yes, this is the world I live in. Yeah. I have you know, this thing. If you put it together, it creates a little robot. Very cool. It's like a turret thing. They've just defined that it has a move characteristic of 3 circle. Then I go to Elocidian Star Striders. When performing a shoot action with a privateer support asset, if the friendly operative that line of sight is being drawn from is on a vantage point, does the shoot action gain the benefit of that vantage point? Yes. I think this makes sense. For those of you unaware, it's very, very similar to the Vet Guard support assets there. Whatever they're called. Ancillary assets, is it? I think. Ancillary support. Yeah, and basically, in this way, if you're on a vantage point, you are drawing line of sight from that thing, you get the benefit of vantage. I think that makes sense to me. Cool. I'm down with it. Hunter Clade. So we've got a few interesting ones here. Add the following to the Eradication TAC-op. When counting wounds lost for this TAC-op, if an operative is reduced to 0 wounds, ignore excess wounds lost. Okay. For example, if 5 damage is inflicted on an operative with 2 wounds remaining, count 2 wounds lost. I think this makes sense. This is clearly probably how it's supposed to work, but I do understand some people saying, oh, well, you lost 5 wounds. The fact you only took 2 damage doesn't matter, right? So good to clean up. With balanced day state change in mind, does the depreciation take effect? Depreciation? Deprecation? Leave a comment. What am I saying? Take effect for a Doctrina imperative selected for the command override tactical deploy. Yes. Deprecation effects are only ignored the first time a Doctrina imperative is selected for your kill team in the strategy phase. Cool. Again, just clarify things due to the FAQ. Navy breaches when an operative makes multiple shooting attacks from one shoot action, e.g. blast. Does the Blitz tactical deploy apply to all the shooting attacks from that one action, or just the first one? All of them? Cool. So yes, they have made, I'll throw this out there, they have made several rulings now to imply that the follow-on attacks from a blast or a torrent are essentially the same action, or all of them are affected by whatever the initial shot is affected by, regardless of the fact that technically in the rules it is a separate shoot action, essentially. So, or it's a separate shoot attack, not a separate shoot action. There you go. So they seem to be very consistent in the follow-on effects, attacks from the first attack are essentially the same attack. Cool. When a Navis Geist Skull operative is incapacitated as a result of the Navis Void Gamma's detonate special rule, do the Navis Geist Skull's remaining wounds count as being lost, in particular for attack ops that have mission objectives that require this? Yes. Again, just a good thing. So basically, if you suicide your own dude, does it count as having been suicided for the point of damage? Yes, cool. Commandos. This is essentially exactly the same. When a bomb squig is incapacitated, does it count? Oh, I'll read it. Okay. When a bomb squig operative is incapacitated as a result of its bomb squig special rule, do its remaining wounds count as being lost, in particular for TAC ops and mission objectives that require this? Yes. There you go. Clearly, this is something that somebody in the last 3 months just realized, like, well, hold on now. And they're just going back and filling it out. Legionary. So, there is only one question here, and I added in the 2 actual abilities that it's referencing so that we can see what it's actually saying. Some rules allow you to resolve a hit before the attacker, e.g. Bladed Stance ability from the Void's Guard Kurnathi. How do these interact with the Shrive Talon's Vicious Reflexes ability? And I would say pay attention to this, because this is not what I would have guessed. So, Vicious Reflexes changes the order of dice resolution, but rules such as Bladed Stance happen before the order of dice resolution. As a result, Bladed Stance would allow the Void's Guard Kurnathi to parry first, then normal dice resolution would begin, starting with the Shrive Talent operative. So let's read those, because and this will come up again in multiple teams. I believe that at least the Worm Cult also have an operative that have a similar thing, and maybe the Kroot too, but maybe not the Kroot. I got very confused when I read the Kroot. Bladed Stance. Each time this operative fights in combat, in the resolve successful hits step of that combat. Hold up. That is an identical wording to the next bit from Vicious Reflexes. This is why it seems a bit weird. It's not, one of them doesn't say before the resolve successful hit step, so I can see where this confusion comes from. So they both say each time this operative fights in combat, in the resolve successful hit step of that combat. Back to Bladed Stance. You can resolve one successful hit before the attacker. If you do so, that successful hit must be used as a parry. So that's, you can resolve one successful hit before the attacker. Whereas Vicious Reflexes is, if you are the defender, then you start instead of the attacker when resolving successful hits. Man, they could have, that could have gone either way. Let's be honest. But now it's very clear, it has defined that, once you begin the order of dice resolution, that is when you are going first. However, some things happen before that, even though they are all happening first in the resolve successful hit step. There you go. Man, that's interesting to very few people. I've used a bold word when I said interesting. I understand, but it is interesting for some. Okay, so Novitiates. Novitiate Exactor, whip into frenzy action. Add the following to the end of the final sentence. Add circle to its movement characteristic to a maximum of 4 circle. And then there's something below it. But I want to tell you why I brought this up first. So I have put here, again from Wikipedia, the definition of what exactly it means when you charge. So move the active operative up to a distance that does not exceed the distance equal to its movement characteristic plus circle. Okay? So when you charge, you are not modifying its move characteristic, you are just giving it a plus circle. That is not the same as modifying it. It's movement characteristic plus circle. It's not you modify your movement characteristic by plus circle so that you can then move. Okay? The reason I put this is because it says to a maximum of 4 circle. The way Novitiate Exactor works is you can whip, and then until the end of its next activation, much like +1 APL from comms, it gets plus circle to its move. So what some people thought you could do, and frankly you could do until they FAQ'd it, was you could, after your Novitiate, whatever the big chainsaw girl is, has moved, you then have your Novitiate Exactor whip her. That takes her from 3 circle to 4 circle, okay? But then because you then get it, cool, all right. So anyway, you can't go up to 5 circle and then charge, but you can go up to 4 circle and then charge a 5 circle charge, okay? Easy peasy. Vet Guard. When starting a Spec Ops campaign, can I add the 4 Trooper Veteran Operatives and Ancillary Support to my data slate? Yes. Obviously, nobody really knows what narrative games are. So this could mean anything. No. So obviously, this was a question, I think, okay, I've seen this asked, and I believe the reason you need to know this might, no, I've lost it. I don't know why. Maybe it's due to roster space. Maybe it's due to, if you want to give them, experience or battle honors or whatever, they have to be on the data slate. I don't know. Yeah. Wormblade. If a Wormblade operative performs a guard action in an active... I have my Wormblade right here, actually. I'm very hyped on Wormblade right now. I'm doing an Imperial team. Look at this little dude here. So, he's obviously just a scion, right? But I gave him 2 pistols. Now, he's gonna be my Kellamorph. And my sniper, sorry, let me carry on. That's hobby for another time. I'm doing an Imperial Wormblade team. There you go. If a Wormblade operative performs a guard action in an activation in which its order was changed from conceal to engage, does it gain the benefit of Cold Ambush rerolls in the subsequent guard attack? No. I think this tracks for me because it would have been during the activation that you've changed it, and then you're out of the activation, even though you performed the shoot action so that you could guard in the activation, you are then out of it, and that does seem consistent. Certainly when you take into account that you are able to guard with a heavy weapon after moving. So yeah, essentially what happens in your activation does not affect you outside of the activation. Nice. Why is this blank? I don't know. That's a worrying thing. But I've already done Legionary. I did them here. So clearly that was just left lying around. So go to Hierotech Circle. If a friendly Cryptek operative selected for deployment is not in the kill zone, e.g. it has been incapacitated, can an Apprentech operative still perform the Apprentech assistance action to perform one of that Cryptek operative's Cryptek actions? Despite being very wordy, the answer is yes, and that's a good sign. Also not what I would have guessed, actually, but nice to clarify. Hierotech Circle need all the help they can get, so that's nice. And then we have, when using the magnification conduit ability, if you are using... Yes, you gain the benefits of vantage point. Right. So that was 100% how I read it. I would have been really surprised if they didn't let you get the vantage point, because you're just using the line of sight of the other model. The line of sight is from that model. Why would that not take effect? Because you'd have really weird interactions where you can draw clear line of sight, but then you could whatever. Cool. Okay. Kasakin, what's up? Page 40, Kasakin Demo Trooper, plant melter mine action. Add the following to the relevant part of the first sentence. Place your melter mine token in a location visible to and within 1 inch of this operative and more than circle from enemy operatives. Yep, this is just pretty standard change for mines. Clearly, they wrote all of the planting mine actions, much like they did with medics, where they forgot to add another model in every single medic so far, I think. They forgot to specify that you have to plant a melter mine token in a visible location, which I think makes a lot of sense. Cool. That will be interesting though, actually, because for it to be visible, you have to draw a line of sight from your head. So often you just, like, even barricades, because of, you know, the size of the models compared to a barricade, often you're not going to be able to actually see on the other side of that barricade, or not a barricade, sorry, but a lot of terrain, like the Octarius barricades. They're not barricades, but, you know, light walls. Like, you, unless if you're in the wrong spot, you won't be able to see on the other side of that wall thing. Yeah. So that's actually interesting. You could definitely say, no, you can't put it there because you don't actually have visibility. And from where your head is on the model, you actually can't see within 1 inch of the other side. Interesting. Okay. And then we just have the rules explanations again. If anybody wants to have a quick look at those, if I've jogged your memory, we're at the end of the video now. So take a look at these bad boys. Please, if there are any others you can think of, let me know. I'm sure I can knuckle down and think of a few more myself, but these are kind of the obvious ones. And these are ones that I've covered some of these before, but I figure at some point in January, maybe February sort of thing, I will just bang them all out and release one a day for like a month. Yeah, it won't stop my regular videos, but just boom, boom, boom. And it will also help me cover some days where I'm away. Why will I be away? Well, maybe because you've taken sweet, sweet pity on me. And you would like me to go to tournaments, because that's right, we're at the end of the video, and that means it's a big triple hello. Namaste. And the reason that I mentioned this again is because of the new, I called it the, I considered calling it the tournament tier or the benefactor tier. In the end, I call it, you get the title of Inquisitor in my Discord. So it is the Inquisitor tier, you know, because they have endless resources. Maybe I should have called it Rogue Trader or Inquisitor tier. I went Inquisitor because that's way cooler, obviously. Oh, and look, I have an Inquisitor right here. Now, this one for my Wormblade team is obviously going to be I'll talk about this in another video. Yeah, so there you go. That's all of the changes. They really weren't many. They're really not going to have a huge effect on the game, to be honest. Just clearing up of rules. This isn't going to come up much. Good to do. Fingers crossed for balanced data slate this week. Otherwise, God, I really hope it's not next week. Going to be a bit busy then, to be honest. And otherwise, first week of Jan, second week, you know. We're expecting it in December, but it might be pushed back to January. You never know when it comes to Warcom and Christmas, right? But yes, there you go. Hey, I do have another channel called Full Scale Wargaming. Obviously, as I've mentioned, check out my Patreon. And otherwise, if you just want to talk about Kill Team with like-minded people, if you want to learn how to play the game more, jump into my Discord. Also, I'm absolutely parched, so I'm going to have a nice drink for my own merch. Glass half thirst quenched.
This warhammer costs 40k.
That's the sound effect I use when I've become a consumerist chill. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully, I'll see you incredibly soon for the balance date slate, which I'm super excited for. Okay, see you soon, bye, guys.